Satini, It's good to see you guys. Welcome back. We took a week off while I was traveling. We took our spring break, and Shirley and I just been catching up. We're excited to see you all again. So today's Tuesday, March 18th already. Um, did you guys get snow down in Southeast or Juneau? We got a bunch of snow in Anchorage.
We just got a little bit down here, but it's
Just a little, huh? Yeah, we got a good amount. I just got off a meeting with my dad in Seward and I could see out his window that it was really coming down there. I was like, it looks pretty, but I'm like, feels like Christmas again already. But yeah, so here we are, Tuesday, March 18th. Just check in about our schedule. We're back now through the end of April. So we'll meet again this Thursday. And then next week I'll be gone, but Shirley will still host class for you. So please continue to come on March 25th and 27th. I'll be out of town in Caltag for our memorial potlatch. My dad's family and I are gonna put away our late grandmother, and so we'll be busy with that day and night all week long. But Shirley will be here for you guys, so you'll be in good hands. And then,
I'm gonna hear all about it when you come back.
yeah, I do. I like to take a lot of pictures and share, and so you'll hear all about it. And then we'll continue class all the way through the end of April, and that'll be our class. So welcome back. Shirley and I wanted to let you guys know that you did an awesome job on the newspaper. I emailed it to everybody and I'll pull it up so that we can take a look at it today just to celebrate your hard work and that we achieved this. And then we also wanted to share that we took up a lot of your time outside of class to work on the paper. And so moving forward for the rest of the spring class, we want you to sit back and learn from us here in class and have a little bit more relaxing learning experience. Um, Before we jump into it, I wanted to share, or I guess I should ask first before I share about the conference. Do any of you have questions or comments right off the bat?
Did you put it on the email so they could uh, get access to it?
Yeah, I put a link to it on the email and it's in our newspaper folder that we made for everybody. And let me see. I'll share this link again in case anyone didn't get it in the email. I think I got everybody. But I'll put this link in the chat too. And Shirley, I added you in the email, so you should have a copy too. And it'll just look like this. It's a PDF on the Google Drive, digital. But isn't this cool? We have this whole um, article that Yandakinikeka wrote really nicely. We worked as a group with Shirley to translate it. And so I have like a article about a current event in Tlingit, which is so awesome. Our word and phrase of the month. Yiguayachguan. This cartoon. Recipe. Personals ad, or at least a space holder if anyone wants to submit a personals ad to us in the future for future editions. Weather. Announcement about traditional games. Talking about, speaking of sports, budget cuts in the Anchorage School Board. Images of beautiful murals, things around town. So yeah, I'm going to check out print options too. We talked about having a printed copy just for each of us in the class to have as a memento. So I'll be looking into that as well. Might be a fun thing to have.
I
And
show it to your friends.
yeah, and I see a comment in the chat. It turned out so awesome. Great work, everyone. So cool what we can do when we put our heads together like that. So if you guys don't have any other questions or comments, I wanted to share an update about the conference. When we last met, I was at the very beginning of the conference. I saw the keynote speaker and then I popped downstairs to meet with you all for class. But after that, I took a lot of pictures and I went to a lot of really good talks. And so I want to share with you guys some of these things. The ICLDC is the name of the conference, and it stands for International Conference on Language Documentation and Conservation. Nice long name. I find that a lot of language conferences and events and bureaus have like really, really long names. I don't know if that's just a coincidence or if we just language people like to have a lot of words, but that's the conference name. It took place in person, and for the past few years, that had been online only. So it was kind of a celebration to be able to meet in person. It was my first time attending in person. I've taken the online links before, but it was held in Waikiki, Hawaii, on the island of Oahu, March 6th through 10th. And then after that, there was a field study in Hilo, Hawaii, on the Big Island for 2 days, March 11th and 12th. So I'll share with you a little bit about that. In the Waikiki section, I was excited to be able to attend this talk by a New Zealand native educator, a Maori educator. And this picture I have on the screen is of her speaking, and she has a slide up on the wall behind her of MP Hannah Wright Clark tearing the Treaty Principles Bill, so the document that was threatening Indigenous rights by trying to reinterpret the treaty. Somebody made this really cool visual artwork of her with traditional designs behind her, and it's very powerful. And she talked about it, so it was really exciting for me to be able to meet her. Um, what I asked her about it at the end, I told her that we had been following the updates and their response to it, and I told her that we felt for her because we have a very similar thing going on federally in the United States with funding, and we have to respond to that and be creative and act on our feet to think about ways to keep our languages going if we can't rely on federal funding. And one thing she said was build your own economy, which I thought was interesting. And so it kind of got me thinking as like a native language teacher and a business owner, like what are other ways that we can generate revenue to fund our languages, even though the federal government has a responsibility because of their actions to eliminate our languages. How do we just be strong? And that was one of her recommendations. Really lovely lady. This next picture I have up is another speaker that I partner with for a couple of my language projects. This is Kaylee, and she works for a nonprofit organization called 7,000 Languages. And 7,000 Languages works with Native communities around the world to partner with them to help them build online courses that people can take at their own pace from their homes. And what I like about them is that they don't try to claim ownership of your course. Um, they partner with a for-profit corporation, a software company called Transparent Software. And basically, they've gotten the for-profit company to allow free access to any of the native communities that want to build a course. And then she mentioned that one of the things they talked about is data sovereignty. So when we document our languages, when we record our elders speaking and we share cultural knowledge and language, uh, that belongs to the communities. And so 7,000 languages keeps everything backed up so that even if for some reason if the software failed, they can pull all that information and send it back to the communities. This is another slide from her presentation. And I thought it was cool because they had their interns build courses, and one of their interns shared her organization, which is interesting to me because I do a lot of content creation, course design. So this intern in particular, her name was Lorena, she organized her course into 5 units. And so unit 1 is alphabet, which is vowels, consonants, comparison with Portuguese, which must be the dominant language in her community. Unit 2 is people, so talking about family, roles in the village, greetings, as well as grammar, personal pronouns. Unit 3 is nature, so then they talk about time and space and prepositions. So, where are you in relation to the tree or the river? Unit 4 is animals. So fishes, birds, other animal names. And then for their grammar, they add in how to conjugate verbs. So I see, you see, they see. And then unit 5 was food, fruits, grains, and vegetables. And for their grammar, they added expressing possession. I thought that was really cool. Um, Shirley and I talked about this one. The next speaker I saw that I have a photo of is experienced in radio and podcast production. And so um, we've been kind of thinking about like how could we do something like this? But what I found helpful is that she shared information about the logistics of starting a radio show. If you want to start a radio show, she said you can expect the startup costs of commercial radio to be between $10,000 and $100,000, as well as monthly maintenance, which would be upwards of $1,000 a month. Um, Traditional sources of funding for radio shows would be advertising, government support for public stations, pledge drives. And she has this image on her slide of Hawaii Public Radio, which was cool because I later got to talk to Larry Kimura in Hilo, and he's a big leader in the Hawaiian language movement. And he hosted a radio show for 6 or 7 years while he was on Oahu. And then after he left, his students kept it going for a couple years. But that was a really big hit. People tuned into the radio. He would play recordings. They would do it all in the Hawaiian language. They get people calling in and speaking Hawaiian on the air, and it just seemed exciting. And then she also proposed this alternative route. If you don't have the funding to start a radio show, a public radio show, an alternative would be podcasting, which she summarized as being a lot cheaper, a lot more easily accessed for people. Um, she said when they first started, I asked her at the end, like, how much time did it take you guys to produce your content for your podcast? And how often did you air it? And she said in her first experience, it took them 3 or 4 days of talking and recording and planning to get like 4 minutes of content after they cut it and edited it. So um, her big recommendation if you're starting out is to just go at your pace. And just do what you're able to do and produce. The freedom of a podcast allows you to produce the amount that you can. And she's like, don't pin yourself to a certain amount at first until you get the hang of it. So that's nice that a podcast gives you that freedom. Other advantages she mentioned are lower startup and maintenance costs, minimal personnel required, no government regulations. You can start small and scale up later, and you have more creative control of what you have in the content. Um, so yeah. Oh, she did mention too that podcasts and radio played a huge role in language revitalization because they become a hub for people to speak with each other and listen to their language. So that was our time in Waikiki. And then I have this picture up I took from the plane because I looked out the window over this beautiful bay in the island of Oahu, and it was cloudy, and the skies were clearing up, and there was this beautiful double rainbow out the window, and I happened to grab a picture of it. So then we went to Hilo on the Big Island, and this is a picture of a pretty sunset I saw when we first got there. This was near the hotel we stayed, the Hilo Hawaiian Hotel. And then we got to go to the Hawaiian medium schools. And we've all heard of immersion programs like the Language Nest in Juneau, where they speak all in Tlingit. We've been to immersion gatherings, some of us, where you stay in the language. A medium school is where you use the native language to teach everything that you're going to teach. Um, and so they have students preschool through 12th grade. And it was so cool to me to hear how they did that because, so for the Language Nest, it was run privately. So they do their own funding. And then K through middle school was a charter school. And then the high school is public school. So they worked with the different governing entities to be able to create all these schools where they're meeting state requirements and they're teaching science, math, agriculture, as well as traditional knowledge, all in Hawaiian. They stay in the language the whole time they're in school. Except for English class. And so they walked us around and let us go visit all the classes. Um, these students that you see in the very front row are our translators and our guides for the day. And this image is of all the students, all the high school students, doing a welcome ceremony for us. And so our translators stood behind us and interpreted for us what was happening. It was a very cool experience. I was very impressed with them. All the students were very disciplined, very polite, intelligent. Um, and one of the things I noticed too was that when they would explain things to us on the tour, because after this they were our tour guides, we split up into groups. They would often say things like, "Well, Hawaiians are very intelligent, and that's why, we do this," or their expectations are high of us. So you can tell that they're receiving a lot of positive feedback about who they are as Native people. And I just felt that it kind of glowed through them. And then we went back to the college at the university in Hilo, and they hosted panel discussions for us. And the theme of the whole conference was diaspora, which I had to look up, but it's an English word that basically describes the act of a community parting and living in different areas in the world. So they talked about the three speakers here are people who had moved away from Hawaii and then came home. But then they also had speakers who moved away from Hawaii and generated uh, native language classes and programs for other Hawaiians that were living in their communities, like Seattle and Portland and San Francisco. So it was really cool to hear because so many of us, I feel, can relate to a lot of that. And then the last couple images I want to share, I took a lot of pictures and I saw a lot and learned a lot. But this one is of some books that they created all in the Hawaiian language. And Shaksani Keek and I are working on a similar project right now for Tlingit. And so of course I asked them, do you guys have any books that are meant for elementary school students? And they said yeah, and middle school students they said yeah. So I snapped some photos, but this particular book shows on the left-hand side everything's all in Hawaiian, and on the right-hand side they have an image. This particular book looks like it was about all the islands of Hawaii. They included songs. So that was a fun idea to have songs in the book, and they have the chords written so that if you're going to sing them, you can sing along. Oh, and then they also have a website with all the audio files that accompany the books. So, as you saw in this previous photo, there's like a QR code here, and this takes you to the website where you could listen to the song and listen to all the audio. A couple other things I wanted to share about it. The illustrations are awesome. Um, and this book, I noticed that they had the way they did their vocabulary words for students are they'll have a page with the text all in Hawaiian, and then their vocabulary words they put in bold-face print. And so they kind of stand out. And then right there at the bottom of the page, they have the vocabulary words, but they wrote their definitions also in Hawaiian. So they're giving more descriptive words for the term using the Hawaiian language to explain the vocabulary word, which I thought was really cool too. Couple more pictures. They have illustrations. This one is of a boy playing the ukulele, and there's people working on food behind him. I can't understand the Hawaiian, but you can see that they wrote about him here. And in this format, this is a different book. They have, again, the vocabulary words in boldface print, but in this book, instead of having them at the bottom of the page, this must be more advanced. They have them in a glossary at the end. But again, they have the definitions in Hawaiian. I asked the students at the medium school, do you guys remember it clicking? Do you remember when you were really little? Because a lot of them went through the schools ever since they were in preschool. And I said, do you remember it just like when it suddenly clicked and you understood? And they were like, no, I think we were too little. And so some of their parents spoke to them at home too. Um, but yeah, that was pretty cool to hear. Um, any questions or comments about that? That's all my photos from the conference.
I have a question in case somebody else can go ahead of me.
Anyone else have one? I don't see any, Shirley.
Yeah, on the definition of the words in the native language, is it similar to the dictionary? That
Oh, oh yeah, that's a good point. Um, They did mention too that they made a dictionary that's also all in Hawaiian. So instead of having like an English to Hawaiian dictionary, they just have a full Hawaiian dictionary. We can look up words and read the meanings, but it's all in Hawaiian.
The other question I have is, and it's something that we, Southeast doesn't really have to deal with it, but in Anchorage, possibly in Seattle and wherever else they're trying to teach the language, is uh, we have a mixture of tribes, uh, and they're as interested in learning a native language, as 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 you could expect, young people. That I think it's something also in at the university here where we have to deal with uh, students that are not Clanket Southeast, and but they're learning the language. And I was wondering about Hawaii because I know there's a real strong mixture of Japanese and uh, different people like that that is living in Hawaii. So is that something they have to that was ever mentioned, or did you ask about that? Um,
Oh
when
yeah.
they teach the language, do they have a mixture of people?
Mm. I didn't even think to ask them about that. One thing I noticed was that when we were touring the classrooms in the elementary student age class, and they were all together on one campus, which was cool. There was like the preschool section, the elementary school section, middle school, high school, but you could walk to all of them. But one thing I noticed was that one of the classes we visited for, I think, the kindergartners was Okinawan language, which is a Japanese language. And the teacher was teaching the kids and they were getting right into it, but they were learning Japanese through Hawaiian instruction, which I thought was really cool. And they taught, so for their foreign languages, they taught Okinawan and also English. English was one of the foreign languages they teach at school. But yeah, I
So
don't know. Mhm.
uh, somebody else want to ask? I have another question.
Don't be shy, guys, if you have questions. Go ahead, Shirley.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about podcasts. Uh, I did a podcast for a student, and he just let me talk, and I think he had to edit it to a certain amount of time, but I never did hear the results, the actual podcast. So you do a podcast, and it's out there. Is does it last a certain amount of time, or is it there for anybody to find later? Or um, tell us more about podcasts.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I would love to do a podcast with you. I think it would be really fun. And I have a lot to learn about it, but some of the ways that I listen to podcasts are either on Spotify or on my podcast app. Um, I listen to it a lot for like things that I want to learn about, um, finances or running a business or any kind of thing like that where I don't know a lot. It's great because it's free information. And what I would have to learn is like, how do you get your podcast on Spotify? I'm not sure yet. But it should be available. I wonder if I might even be able to track down the one that you were in. We can talk about it later, but They should be available once you publish them um, on at least those two platforms. But it's something that you can access from your phone using one of your applications. Did he tell you the name of the podcast?
No, no, it was about my own experience of learning English. So
Whoa. Yeah, that would be interesting to hear. I can ask Rene too. Lance Twitchell has one about native language revitalization. He interviews a lot of people, and I think his is on Spotify. But yeah, it would be fun, especially if we get our language center going to have like a little recording studio in there.
I sure would like to. I don't want to take up all the time from the students if they have anything.
They're pretty quiet today.
Yeah, maybe I'm putting them to sleep. But I sure would like to do a research and find out of the Southeast people living here about their knowledge and their ability to speak. And, you know, there's got to be people that can do that. It's uh, that that we can use, you know, to in our own community to say, okay, we have so and so, and so the elders that are here, and I understand there's a lot of them, uh, to research into them uh, about where they're from and what cultural knowledge they brought with them to to Anchorage, so so we can make use of them. And there's always a discouragement about, yeah, the old people are willing to share, but they never can get around. So that's an issue that's pretty difficult for a city like Anchorage and Palmer and Soldotna.
Yeah.
But if if we have the ability to record them wherever they are, that would be wonderful to figure that out.
Yeah. I know it's possible. I have a couple recording devices that I've accumulated over the years for recording like my auntie and different people. And they make pretty high quality recordings. Like um this is one I have that Doyon Foundation bought for me. It's very small. It's probably like 5 inches long. And it just takes two AAA batteries. It's very user friendly. It's just basic, like you have your record button and your stop button and your play button. Um, and it has these little directional microphones so that it can capture two people talking. If you just have it set on the table, it'll capture the whole conversation. Um, when Lance recorded us at the Language Nest, he brought in kind of a fancier one that was on a stand and it was really high quality, but we each had to like talk right into it and we just sort of passed it to each other. Um, but we can definitely do that.
I don't know what the outreach could be. We'd almost have to have I think, the assistance of Juno Concadida uh, to do that. I should write a resolution to Concadida to help out with that, to find people. I don't know exactly how to say it.
Yeah, I kind of pick up what you mean. And then I was thinking too, Alaska Corporation has a really big language grant and they have applications open. So if that's something we wanted to pursue, something we could write into a proposal. Every once in a while, I'll have somebody write me privately and say, hey, my grandpa's in town. He speaks Tlingit. Can you meet up with us and stuff? So this would be a great way to record people and kind of build that community as we pass through Anchorage or even if we travel to other communities.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be neat if we could get on the Alaska News and just announce. I'm hoping to find and have them have a special number to call. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, we could have run advertisements. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Anybody have a similar project in mind or something that you've been thinking about?
Anybody have experience with podcasts?
Sorry, this is Abby.
Thanks.
I do have some experience with podcasts. Um, it's I mean, it's the technology has become super simple now for
So
recording. It really is the editing process that takes some time, but
I'll do so.
That was Abby Tashi.
Mm, yeah, the editing would be something to learn if we can get podcasts going with some of the people that we're finding here in Anchorage in the area. I don't mean just Anchorage when I say that. I mean Palmer and Soldotna and Kenai and all those places. We're scattered all over. There's almost 4,000 of us here in this area. So,
Yeah. I have some experience editing from making courses online, and I use Adobe Audition, which takes, I've done some Googling, I guess is what I'll say. I've looked up some things up and looked on YouTube how to edit. But I can basically make a recording sound crisp and I can chop out sections where we're silent or thinking or
uh,
Mhm.
yeah, because one of the things that when they had a concern about, he mentioned it at the last assembly last year, was we're not doing that much with the history of, uh, of the Clinkets. And the Downhowers really spend a lot of time and effort um, uh, recording and writing some of the some of the history from people that are now gone, and it's stuff that we should be sharing, and it's not. Uh, there's some people that are really caught up in saying, "Oh, we can't tell this story because it belongs to certain clan," and we can't do that. History will die. It will die if you don't share it. It's got to be out there. Uh, if it's published I think Renee and I talked about it, that if it's published, uh, I think it's okay to start using it for classes um, and to share it in different ways, but always to give credit to the person uh, whose uh, words we're using or history that they're sharing. So, and the Downhowers were really, really careful about uh, giving that kind of information for us to have, both in the biographies and also in the oral history. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. When I was in college in Juneau at UAS, I took a native oratory class, and they taught us some basic respect. Like, I wanted to learn and recite a speech by Jesse Dalton, who was Duck Named Han. And um, I talked to my teacher, Lyle James, and he said, okay, well, this speech belongs to the clan. So if you want to recite it, here's what you need to do. And so he did it for me. He reached out to Ken Grant and told him what my intentions were and is it okay? And then Ken Grant was nice enough to give me that guidance where he said, this is a big important speech to us. Um, so we just ask that if you wanna recite it, that it's for something that's big and important to you. And, I was pretty new to learning Tlingit at that time, and I'm not of Tlingit heritage. And I, shared, I did what he asked. I told people, he said I could share this because it's about native language revitalization, which is important to me, and was really well received by people. And so I was lucky to have that guidance, but I kind of take that with me too. If I'm sharing a recording of an elder, uh, try to find out who they are. Like if I take something from a celebration video, I'll usually ask around until someone knows her name, her Tlingit name, her clan, and to thank the clan. And I'll usually ask, like, is there anyone from this clan here? And usually there is somebody. It's kind of fun for them to say, oh yeah, that was my auntie and stuff. But it, I think that kind of respect goes a long way, even if you're new like me, just figuring it out and asking for help.
yeah, we can't just take something and run with it, go through the process. And it's really, I think that what Pune brought up was really important. And I needed to talk to him some more about that, but uh, they keep us so busy in the conference that I didn't have time to just chat with him about the fact that he brought that up as a concern uh, to teach the history and culture. So since it was something that I used and taught the language, and I did it mainly because I realized that all the students I had here in Anchorage were not Tlingit, or they were city raised uh, young people. So I always made the effort to make sure that history and culture was included in teaching the language. So yeah, I think uh, teaching the language, like I always say, they really did a super wonderful job in teaching Anna the Tlingit in the Southeast. Now I'm teaching her to
Sheesh.
be Tlingit. So because looking up words and saying them and everything, there's no problem at all.
Oh,
So
geez.
yeah, it's just wonderful. So if there are any ideas out there among the students uh, to give us ideas on experiences that you heard about or have seen or experienced, we're going to be happy to hear about it because we want to do the outreach.
Yeah. And a reminder too to students is don't undervalue your own family's knowledge too. It seems like sometimes we get into class and people will share like, well, this is what my auntie told me, and then it's like this awesome story. And sometimes when I was starting out, I would look at things that were accomplished by people like the Downhowers, and I would think, well, we're not at that level. We didn't publish anything. I probably shouldn't share, like just the things I just know. But actually your family and your parents, they have a lot of information. It's valuable.
As a fluent speaker, I took a class from Nora Downhauer uh, in reading the oral history that they recorded. And the part that we had to concentrate on was the Tlingit, because it's written was a Tlingit story and then the English translation. So we had to go through the Tlingit part of it, the whole thing, and be able to read it. And if we don't understand, to have a discussion in class. So it was a real challenge, and it was a real good training for me to be able to read that and be able to uh, put the expression. And that was something that she was good at, was to talk about that in class. So it was a wonderful experience to do a class like that.
It's awesome. Well, we're getting close to time, and Shirley and I wanted to let you guys know like what to look forward to in our next classes. So for our upcoming classes, um, we have our schedule lined out, and we're hoping to bring in topics like plants. We're coming up on spring soon. So we want to incorporate plants, animals that are available, certain times of the season, like Yana 8, names of the moon, salmon berries, blueberries, fish that we get at certain times. And so those will be some of our classes for the rest of the spring. Shirley, did you have anything else to add?
No, I don't. I think I really took up a lot of time. I'm sorry. My apology to the students. Keep taking over. I get
That's a
all excited about all these things that we could do.
Yeah. Hey, when you're excited, I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's fun to get all these projects going. I was talking to one of my colleagues on the trip from the interior, and we were talking about partnering with elders to teach classes. And one of the things he said was, well, I want to partner with this elder, but she just retired, so I'm trying to give her space. And then it kind of made me think about like, well, I don't give Shirley space. Move to,
Going, gotta keep moving and thinking, and yeah. So
yeah,
it helps me to be alive. and also the excitement I have is to keep the language going. So,
That's awesome. Well, we're lucky to have you. I hope we get to make all these projects come true. And we'll be working with folks too. We'll bring back the self-introduction and touch base on that. Keep it strong with you guys. Any other comments or questions before we go?
yeah, be prepared to work on self-introduction for Thursday.
Awesome. Gonna cheese, Johan. Have a good rest of your day.
بنشيش
Aw,
سوية قواستين
ikwati.